This is the disassembly of the Magpul flip-up sights. These are the Gen 2 version here. I imagine the first generation disassemble in the same way. Tools that you'll need is a hammer, a 3/32 inch punch, and a 1/16 inch punch, preferably with the roll pin tips on them. They help out quite a bit. A flathead screwdriver, the front sight adjustment tool that comes with the sight, and something to put the sights on while you're punching the little pins out. So let's get started on the front sight here. First thing to do, if it's not done already, is to remove the flathead screw that attaches the sight to the rail. If the nut gets stuck in there like they do sometimes, you can poke an Allen wrench in there and that'll usually help free it up. So there's the nut. Next, we will take the front sight tool, stick it on all the way, make sure it locks in there, and just unscrew it all the way. And the sight post will come off. And there's two little pieces in there. There's a little black plastic piece and a spring. Set those aside. Now we're going to punch out the pins here. Start in the back. Punch out the pin that the sight pivots on. It's got spring pressure on it, so it'll be in there pretty good. Might be easier to pull it off with a pair of pliers once you get it most of the way out. Maybe. There it goes. So there's the pin. Spring. This piece will pull off. There it goes. The spring that flips up the sight, it's got a little dog leg in it. See if you can see that. That goes on the left side if you're looking down on the sight. Just remember that for when you're putting it back in. Now it's just one more roll pin here, which attaches the button that flips up the sight. Comes out a lot easier. Now these two pieces come apart. And that's all the pieces to the front sight. So let's gather those up so we don't lose anything. I'm going to put them in a little baggie so none of these tiny pieces get lost. Now let's do the rear sight. Same thing, remove the flathead screw if not already done. Make sure the nut comes off also. Okay. Now I'm going to attack the roll pin in the sight windage knob there. This is where you're going to use the 1/16. It's a little guy. So he punches out. There's a little tiny roll pin. Pull off the knob here, but be careful, there's a little ball bearing and a spring right under there. So it might be beneficial to do this in a Ziploc bag just to make sure you don't lose it I'm going to risk it and just pull it off here if I can. Wow, it's really on there. Get a little screwdriver, maybe pry it up a little bit. There it goes. So a little ball fell in there. So there's the knob, the ball, and the spring there. Now take your screwdriver again, and on the left side, just keep unscrewing the screw. There's the screw that holds the little rear aperture on. That comes off. Now there's a little plate in there. If you're looking down on it, the hump is up in the middle. Now we're going to do the same thing here and punch out the pin. Came out a lot easier. Pull off the back of the side. And you can pull out the spring. One more pin to punch out. Those pieces come apart. Now they are fully disassembled. Okay, here's the front sight ready to be put back together. To start, you'll just want the flip up back, the base, the flip up spring, and the larger pin. So you can set these other parts aside for now. Take the back and align it with the base and start the pin in here. You don't want to punch it all the way. Punch it so it's sticking out into the gap, just about 1/3 of the way. There. So you want it to stick out just like that. Next, take the short leg and stick it in the hole in the base. Then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this sleeve I made out of tape and just stick it over the long leg to protect the paint job I did. Now push the spring down so it kind of ninjas onto the pin that's sticking out into the gap, and hold your thumb there while punching the pin the rest of the way. There, see the pin punched the rest of the way in. Now this next part's a little bit tricky. Take the flip up button here, and you're kind of going to scoop that long leg of the spring and roll it down, and just kind of roll the sight forward until it pops into place like that. Now take that smaller pin and punch it in. Now take the spring that came from the actual sight post, place it in there, and take this little plastic piece with the legs down and the little bump facing back. Put it on top of the spring. And then screw in the sight post. You can start it with your fingers. And then finish it off with the tool that comes with it. Lastly, we want to press this nut into its place. So screw it on to the flathead screw here and just push it into its place. That way it sets in there nice and flat. You can unscrew the screw and slide it back on your rail and screw it into place. Now here are all the pieces to reassemble the rear sight. The process is very similar. You want to start with the back, the base, the larger pin, and the flip-up spring, just to start anyway. So piece the two parts together, start the pin in, I'm going to protect the long leg here. Take the short leg, stick it in the hole, and push down on the spring to pivot it around the pin. Push the spring through, or the pin all the way through the spring. Now you're going to scoop the long leg with the flip up button. Now insert the small pin. Okay, now we're going to start putting the rear sight on. Take the plate that came out with the hump facing up, drop it on in. Take the rear sight, set it in. Take the screw that's threaded, stick it in the left side, and start screwing the sight so it slides onto the screw itself. Screw it on until it's about in the middle. Now you're going to take the little spring here and drop it in the hole it came from. Take the little ball bearing, drop it on top of the spring. And take your adjustment knob, and you want to make sure this hole in it is lined up with the hole on the screw so you can punch the roll pin in. It doesn't look lined up. That's closer. Set the roll pin in there. Punch it through. Last step, take the screw, thread it just a little bit onto the attachment screw, push it in so it sits flat, unscrew, attach it to your rail, like so.